What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's time for another handheld gaming news video. We had quite a few things this week, some GPD, Ayaneo announcements, certainly some bigger announcements and information when it comes to Valve and Steam, and we've got this week's GeForce NOW Games. So since we're doing a news video, we'll throw them in there as well. And we've had some updates for the Legion Go 2 and the ROG Xbox Ally X. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now, first off, just really quickly to make note, and it's not really a big deal, but the Legion Go 2 did get a new BIOS update available, which brings it to version 12. As far as I know, there was just some little minor changes here and potentially fixing something with some memory speed issues, which I didn't have with my device. And then also with the VRAM, so setting that to 10 gigabytes as its default versus 2, which is much better and is actually a pretty sweet spot for that device. So yeah, much better as far as that goes, but nothing major there. And then for the ROG Xbox Ally X, there was some MCU firmware updates, and more importantly, we did already get a GPU driver update, bringing that up to a November driver for them there, or late October driver for the Xbox Ally X. So yeah, already getting some updates for those new devices that have been out for just about a month now. Not quite, but I thought I would mention them here. All right, next up, GPD Win 5 Ryzen AI Max Plus 395 gaming handheld confirmed with a 120 gigabyte option and a white chassis. Now, hey, these GPDs and Ayaneos and these 395 devices are all very expensive, but if you are going to dive in, you might want to have all the additional RAM and options, and they really are kind of going all out. And I got to say, I do like kind of the color and the way this works out with all the little black buttons and stuff like that. But of course, I won't necessarily be getting my hands on one of these. They are too pricey, but I did think that it was pretty cool that they were going to have this white 128 gigabyte version available here when it comes to that Ryzen 395. So I did want to mention it here this week. Another announcement from GPD when it comes to their Win 5 devices. Now, we've talked about the Ayaneo Next 2 a little bit. This is going to have a battery inside the device rather than separately, and it's going to be the AMD 395 as well, and it looks to be really nice. And all we've really seen is like these 3D renders so far, and this is some actual hands-on kind of pictures of what the device is looking like here. And I actually think the device looks pretty great. I think it looks pretty good here. I'm not so sure about the color of the triggers and stuff for me there, but yeah, ultimately does look pretty clean and pretty nice. And I did say before, it kind of reminded me of that flat brick white Ally we had in the very beginning from ASUS, of course, with some notable differences here when it comes to the Ayaneo Next 2. Now, I did email them hoping that I could get some kind of response or maybe get one here to check out, and I'll continue to bug them, but nothing just yet. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. But definitely an interesting looking device, and I would actually love to be able to get hands-on with this thing and check it out with that integrated battery and how the cooling's working and the 395 and all of that. But yeah, if this is something you're interested in, I think it actually, being pricey as it is, does look like a pretty solid device from Ayaneo. So when it comes to the Xbox full screen experience, this is a pretty small rollout from Microsoft and Xbox. And I, of course, have gone through and done videos about forcing this and using it on other devices like the Ally X or the Legion Go, while right now it's only officially available on the ROG Xbox Ally X device, and in preview officially quote-unquote available for the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. But it looks like modders have created a tool to enable the Xbox full screen experience on unsupported Windows handheld. So this looks kind of cool. It's a pretty simple little tool that you're going to run on the desktop, and then it's going to check to see if you're using a handheld, what version of Windows you're using, all of that, and then go ahead and set it up so that you can actually boot into and use the Xbox full screen experience with the optimizations and things like that. So I actually thought this was pretty cool. A lot of this stuff you can just kind of go around and do yourself, but this is a nice little tool for people just to be able to download and do it really quickly on the desktop. Maybe we'll do a whole video on checking this out and see how it works and everything as well. But if that's something you're interested in, looks like it's pretty easy to get done. Oh boy, did Steam and Valve have some announcements this week for us. So not only do we now have the Steam Deck, we're going to have the new Steam controller, we're going to have the Steam Machine, and the Steam Frame. So we've got their VR, which looks a lot like, you know, like a MetaQuest 3 or so there, but with some notable differences when it comes to the whole design and philosophy behind this thing. And I do think it's ultimately going to be a pretty nice VR headset for what it's going to do. The controller looks pretty interesting. It definitely kind of falls in line with the Steam Deck setup there and has the same thumbsticks and that type of thing. But the thing I'm most interested in for me personally, and that I will definitely be getting to cover here on the channel. Even though I do a lot of handhelds, I do other things from time to time, and this box is definitely something that I want to get here and test along with the Steam Deck, probably for the long term. I want to review it, I want to have it here, test games and all that type of stuff when it comes to getting into the actual Steam machine. The VR looks really cool. It's probably not something I'm going to jump into right away after my past experience with VR. It's just not really my thing, but I do like what I see, what they're doing here. But yeah, it's this box, even though some of the specs may be a little iffy for some of us when it comes to the VRAM and the actual processing power and all of that. But knowing Valve and the way they've optimized the Steam Deck and gotten what they have out of that, I actually think this device is going to wind up being pretty impressive, especially over some time. And it's probably going to be a lot of fun when it comes to customization and modding and just having all kinds of fun with the device. So this is what I'm most excited for out of those announcements when it came to Valve and everything they were talking about this week. Now, something else interesting was that they did kind of directly talk about the Steam Deck 2. So they do say that the Steam Deck 2 must wait for stronger hardware architecture. This is something Valve has been very vocal about. They don't want to just make another Steam Deck to make another Steam Deck. They do say they want 20 to 50% gains, or they don't want 20 to 50% gains. That's not going to cut it for Steam Deck. So I would imagine they're wanting to see something like double the performance of the current Steam Deck, but with really good battery life and probably maybe a 1080p screen OLED or something like that versus the 800p. I mean, I'm just guessing, but yeah, it's very apparent that they were okay with getting 3 to 5 years out of this handheld and waiting for another nice leap. And while I would normally be against that in the PC realm for myself going that long on hardware, Valve's done a fantastic job with the Steam Deck, and I have a hunch the Steam Deck 2 is going to be very good, and I think that the Steam machine is going to be very good and work well over time. It may even wind up outselling the Steam Deck 2, or the original Steam Deck rather, at its 6 or 7 million or so, however many it's sold there. But yeah, very interesting week for Valve and Steam. I don't think we see another Steam Deck till 2027, 2028, something like that. I think that's kind of the consensus out there. I'm thinking spring to summer of 2027, but we'll see what they come up with there. And then, of course, the Steam machine. I'm really excited about this one, and I hope it comes in priced right between that like $499, $599 range. I know a lot of people think it's going to be a bit higher, but I actually think it's going to fall in right around there. All right, that pretty much does it for everything there. I do want to list out the games we got on GeForce NOW Cloud streaming this week. And we also got a new server pop up with RTX 5080 class power ready, which is over in Phoenix, Arizona. And then 12 titles for this week, so I'll go ahead and list those out now. We've got Surviving Mars relaunched, a new release over on Steam. Possessors, which is a new release over on Steam for November 11th. We had Rue Valley, a new release on Steam for November 11th. Anno 117 Pax Romana, which is a new release for Steam and Ubisoft for November 13th, and is also an RTX 5080 ready title. Assetto Corsa Rally, which is a new release on Steam. Inazuma 11 Victory Road, a new release on Steam. Songs of Silence, new release on the Epic Game Store. Call of Duty Black Ops 7, a new release for Steam, Battle.net, and Xbox's PC Game Pass. Where Winds Meet, a new release for the Epic Game Store. I don't see them listing the Steam version yet, but I would assume that will roll around. Mega Bonk over on Steam, Repo on Steam, and RV There Yet over on Steam. That's all 12 titles we've got for this week when it comes to GeForce Now. So especially if you're using something like a Steam Deck, where you can't really jump into something like Black Ops 7, you would be able to do that with GeForce Now. All right, guys, pretty quick and sweet here. That's going to do it for the news this week. Some stuff from GPD and Ayaneo, an interesting tool for modders for the Xbox full screen experience. And, of course, a big week for Valve and Steam when it comes to their hardware lineup. And I really like what I see coming from them, and I can't wait to check out the Steam machine. So anyways, guys, as always, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.